The internet's playing a large role, politics, entertainment, now our economy, and we're hearing there could be policies at the federal level that will allow private companies to enter contracts with private internet service providing companies to create fast lanes, and could be at the expense of other content and people that won't pay for a fast lane. How do you balance that private enterprise against equal access for folks who surf the internet expecting free speech?
Okay, back to the Constitution. I know it sounds crazy. We're going to take the internet, a 21st century invention, back to an 18th century document, because core principles never change. The federal role, we'll go back to the federal government again. The federal government has no power to actually hinder, it's supposed to make regulations occur. If there's a market, a free market, that will actually dictate people pay for that, and the entrepreneurs taking the risk, why not? The government, there'll always be access there, because there's always going to be, if the market's allowed there to compete, you're going to have different levels at different places. The worst thing in the world would be to have the federal government get infringed and actually put barriers on that to make things fair. A fair outcome is socialism. Fair opportunities, a republic. Completely different.
Ms. Grant, fair net neutrality, where do you stand on? Is it fair access, fair opportunity?
When I think about this, I think about when we go back to, if you remember, when we first had the internet and you had dial-up or you could go through your cable internet, it's the same choice. Do you access the internet from what you've got and pay nothing or whatever you can afford, or do you go to the fast lane? There should be no government involvement in telling people how the internet can or cannot operate. It was created by an individual, not a government entity who rubber stamped it and said, here we go. So when you look at it, like Dr. Brannon said, equal opportunity is different from equal outcome. And we are the United States of America. We are not about equal outcome. We are about equal opportunity.
Mr. Harris, on the internet, should private companies be able to slow down access to things I might want to read?
I do think that we need to always understand that wherever the federal government seems to get involved, again in regulation and particularly into the private industry, you are moving right back into what we have seen is a disaster 9 out of 10 times, and the federal government picking winners and losers. That is never a good thing. And we've seen this government under this president continue to pile on with regulations and look for more opportunities for just the tentacles of the federal government to dig deeper and deeper and to go further and further into the lives of our free market and of our nation. So I would be opposed to the federal government getting involved.
Mr. Tillis is one wire into the House. Net neutrality, yeah? No?
Look, the last thing we need is the government to tell cable providers or internet access providers how fast or how slow their content should be. We're in a state now in North Carolina where you oftentimes have multiple options coming into the home. Let the market determine what bandwidths they can provide and still stay in business. I'll go back to something else about the internet that I think is very important. This president's talking about turning control of the internet over to some international body, and I think that that would be a disaster. The United States created the internet. The United States is the only trusted, I think, jurisdiction that makes sure that we truly do keep an internet that's not governed by some international body that I think is a greater threat than what you're talking about. At the end of the day, though, states need to make the decisions about where they can provide more access and how they can have people gain access to the internet. It's a critical part of our future. We've made a lot of progress in North Carolina.
Mr. Brannon.
Yeah, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, it actually takes the control of our internet to organizations outside our sovereignty, back to the Senate. The Senate makes treaties with the president executing it. It's not just one way. And also, I think even at the state level, I don't want the state deciding what cable company or dish company should be. The free market is what built America. The free market will dictate. That is the key to American republicanism.